I will conduct this meeting according to the Open Meetings Act, which is posted in the entry to the council chambers. I'm Kathy Sanyuk. As president of the council, I'll be presiding over this meeting in the absence of the mayor. Sabrina, will you please take roll?
Mr. Carmichael. Mrs. Saniak.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Knutson.
Here.
Mr. Preister.
Here.
Mrs. Blood.
Present.
3 additional items. A, years of service recognition for November. Karen Jackson.
Okay, we have a couple of employees who are able to make it here today for our November anniversaries, and we'll call you forward. And the first one is Officer Joseph Gray. He has our 15-year anniversary. We're very happy for that. Here's your certificate. Thank you. And please remain standing here. We're going to take a picture here in just a minute. Another 15-year anniversary is Andrew Jashinsky, who is not able to be here, but I want to make sure we mention him with the police department. They're all with the police department today. So a 20-year veteran with the city is Robert Wood. I believe he was going to be here. Oh, there you are. Okay, I didn't see you sitting there. Very good, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. Suzanne said she was coming.
Okay, we had 2 other 20-year veterans with the police department. I'll mention their names. I don't see them here yet, but Susan Kessler is also at her 20th, and Stephen Hatfield is also celebrating his 20th. So thank you, employees, for your service.
B, discussion on LEDs and street lighting with OPPD representatives. Gentlemen, would you please come forward?
It's just me, Bert Adams, today. Last time I was at a council meeting, a pre-council meeting, I dropped off some packets. I don't know if you guys have some questions on those. You want me to go through the packet completely, or if you have just some questions on anything particular?
Councilman Preister?
Thank you. Bert, I appreciate you coming last time. Sorry we ran late and had some confusion.
problem.
You had to come back, but thank you for coming back. A couple of things I'm wondering about.
Is his mic on?
Oh, it was on. I just have to talk up. I'll give you a warning. I just got my new hearing aids at 10 o'clock this morning, and everything sounds like it's blaring, so I'm probably compensating and talking lower as a result. So I'll speak up. You've got a 5-step process outlined in the handout, right, and OPPD wants to go through that, and I understand that. One of the things that you're suggesting, though, is currently OPPD takes responsibility and replaces the existing heads and the lights that are out on the street lights.
Correct.
But if we convert it to LED, OPPD is no longer wanting to do that.
If we create our own rate, we'll still do that. If the city purchased them, it would become a job order because it would not be something we purchased. So it'd be just a customer-owned item.
And I think that's one of the stumbling blocks for Omaha. It would be for us, and
Right.
I think Blair is experiencing a little bit of that now that they've already done that.
Right.
But those lights are listed to last longer than the current sodium lights. So what would it take for OPPD to take the same responsibility for the LED lights as you do for the current sodium lights?
We're actually looking at that now. That's what that page 7, those five steps kind of shows the timeline, what we're going to do. If everything comes in where we want it to come in, we will go to the LED rate and make those lights a standard. But we want to make sure that just 2 weeks ago, 2 contractors or vendors came in. One said their light lasts 80,000 hours. Another one said their lasts 125,000 hours. We don't know which one, I mean, that's what the reports say, but until we get that a little more accurate information, we won't know for sure which is the best fixture to use. So I like to go through those 5 steps. The biggest one for me is number 4, testing. I want to put them up, say the hottest part of the season, summer, then maybe get into a cold season, just see how they react in that 6-month period. That's kind of, for me, that's what makes me the most comfortable.
Okay, so you're already seeing the value, as
Oh,
you
yes,
guys said before.
always have.
It's just how do you phase it in, how do you make it happen, and you're certain of which product you use.
Correct.
And you're looking at doing metro-wide then, I'm assuming?
Yes, yes. Once we create it, it'll be all 13 counties. It'll be, yeah.
And that, the other issue really has been the rate of return. And what I saw in here was about a 35% return, but the value of reduction for the lights has gone from 40 to 50 to 60, and some of these lights are 80% more efficient.
Right.
So you're also looking at a rate that's more commensurate with the rate of reduction?
Correct. The current rate has like about an 8-year maintenance life, but these say they go 15, 20, some 30 years, so I must put that into the rate also, so the rate will come down on that portion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. My concern is not that we have to do it immediately, but I want us to keep moving down that road, because
Oh, yeah.
I saw in 2013, we spent just over $1 million on streetlights, and we've got a lot of places we need that money.
Understand.
Okay. Thank you, Bert. I
You bet.
appreciate
No
your
problem.
time.
I just,
Councilman Cook?
and when you guys are going, when you're talking about this 5-step program, I'm assuming that, do you keep the same poles or just the head part? Is that changed, or, I mean,
The poles
is there
would
a
stay.
significant
Just-
cost involved besides the cost of the?
Just the
the light?
fixture. The poles will stay in place, just change the heads out.
Are you looking at maybe a different size of pole, or would you stay with the 25-foot pole?
It's 25-foot, 40. We have 25, 30, and 40-foot poles now. These all just, they would stay in place.
Okay, so basically, we're just, you're gonna go through this process, this test, and just see basically the LED. and-
Correct.
And then be able to come back to us at a later date?
Yep.
And if I add this up, we're probably talking a year and a half from today?
Yeah, but I'll give you updates for each step as they come. I'll call ahead if you guys want me to come and talk about my steps as I go. I can do that too.
And when you're going through these steps, are you designating a neighborhood or an area that you're gonna try these lights, or?
Actually, I've actually got quite a few people calling me asking for them to be pilot areas, so I haven't picked an area yet, but
So if we would want to maybe at that time, if we were looking at a new subdivision, what would we have to do as far as, I know that the SID would probably assume the cost, but if we wanted to, as a pilot, a trial type program, and you're willing to do a neighborhood, put these in a neighborhood, is that something that we would work out with the developer of a SID and maybe use that as a trial basis?
yeah, just give me a call actually, and I could work with the developer and just set the pilots up for that area.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
3C, Mike Williams of Williams Darrison and Associates, presentation of the annual renewal of city employee health, dental, life, and disability insurance.
Good afternoon, council members. It's the time of year for us to look at our employee benefit plans that we have for the city employees. In front of you, you have a packet that I've tried to make easy to understand by numbering in the far right, upper right-hand corner. Our renewal came back from Blue Cross Blue Shield with approximately 24.6% increase. We have about a 90.1% claims loss experience. And obviously, that's why we have insurance to take care of catastrophic coverage. Through further negotiations with Blue Cross, we were able to get it down to 12% from the 24%, but then also with some minimal plan design changes, the final renewal came in at 7.2%. The first sheet that you see in front of you shows the plan design that we, the city, purchase from Blue Cross Blue Shield. If you remember correctly, we have a partial self-funded plan of which we have fixed costs to keep our costs down, and then partially self-fund approximately 30% of our overall exposure risk to the plan design. So the plan design that we have on the left side, or blue, is the last year's plan. This year, we're looking at a plan that takes it from 75-25 down to 50-50, and let me explain that briefly. Hopefully nobody's had an opportunity here recently to have a stay in a hospital or have a surgical procedure or things like that, but on average, you go in for a couple days in a hospital, you're going to come out with a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 bill, depending upon the scenario. And in all those cases, whether it would be 75-25, like we have currently, or 50-50, we're going to max out. So what we do is we go to the carrier and do the 50-50 instead of the 75% to get a break in cost from a premium standpoint. The next change is, you see it says $4,000, $8,000. The max out-of-pocket that we have purchased through the carrier is $3,500. I'm suggesting we look at going to $4,000. The family is $7,000, again going to $8,000. Now this is the plan design that we buy from the carrier. The second page, as you'll soon see, is the plan design that's presented to the employees. The next changes are from the copay of $1,530 to $3,045, 100% for preventative, as the law states. Urgent care centers, 35 to 50, again, that 25% to 50%. And then, again, for the mental and nervous and substance abuse, goes to the 50-50. Copays remain the same. So basically, the changes that we've made from a copay standpoint are very, very minimal, plus the copays go towards the maximum out-of-pocket now. That was not the case a couple years ago, but now the copays go towards the max out-of-pocket. If we look at sheet 2, you'll be able to see how we've partially self-funded this plan design, and this would be what the plan would look like for the 2015 plan year for the city employees. We have a max out-of-pocket currently of $750. My recommendation would be to change that to $1,000, 2 per family, or $2,000. The copays that we discussed, the urgent care that we discussed, and the inpatient, outpatient substance abuse, mental nervous, would bring, as you can see on page 3, the renewal down from 24% going down to 12, down to 7.2 for the partial self-funding. I think our plan design still remains very, very competitive. We did have an opportunity to meet with the different representatives from the union and went over these changes, and I think they were all in agreement to the changes. While healthcare reform is supposed to help us with our healthcare and things like that, it's really not doing much to help us with costs. So we have to be somewhat proactive in keeping our costs in line with healthcare. I still think a $1,000 max out-of-pocket per person is a very, very, very competitive plan, especially with what we see out there as far as what claims are incurred. This is with Blue Cross Blue Shield. We are still involved. We are not involved, but Blue Cross and CHI are involved in a little disagreement that's causing a lot of issues for the community as a whole. And sadly enough, by CHI's decision, it's now costing some employees their jobs through CHI. So I'd have to think, knowing that Blue Cross was paying CHI $1 million a day in claims, and that they're down 60% in those payments, that I don't know who can withstand that for too long. I think you'll find that probably, hopefully, in the first quarter, they'll get together and reestablish a relationship. It just doesn't, I have seen numbers and I have seen situations where in some of procedures that are being done, and it's not the physicians, it's the hospitals, it's where it's being done, is sometimes anywhere from 18 to 25% higher than in other locations. So I think what they would like to do is try to get their costs down a little bit, even with, be it the Med Center and Methodist, to try to work then at that level playing field and work up from there. But we'll see. I don't anticipate this going for a full year whatsoever. We did look at other carriers out there, Coventry, also known as Aetna now, and we also looked at United Healthcare. And Coventry came in at 14%. United Healthcare came in at 10. However, their funding, partial self-funding mechanism, would have made us have to get EOBs from the carrier first, then get them sent. It just would have been very difficult for our employees to get that taken care of, and the savings wasn't there. So we would have had to work with banks that aren't even in the state of Nebraska, so from a depository standpoint. So it just, again, I think Blue Cross and CHI will get back together again here hopefully soon. So from the health insurance standpoint, looking at a 7.2% increase for this year with some minimal plan design changes. Sheet 4 should be the dental sheet. We looked at our current carrier, and they came in with a 12% increase. Actually, it started out at 20. We were able to negotiate down to 12. Dental is just pretty much a usage type plan, and so I felt it necessary to look at other opportunities out there. Reliance Standard came in at a 0 increase, so they would keep the same rates, same plan design. Instead of Metropolitan, instead of their network of dentists, we would use Emeritus, and we have been at Emeritus before. Emeritus actually has, and I can get information for you, actually has a larger network right now currently than Metropolitan, have more specialists like endodontists, periodontists, things of that sort. So again, a 0 plan increase there, and that saves, as you can see there, that saves about $1,700 a month in premium. And we also looked at our flexible spending. Our HR, in charge of HR has worked with a company called Task in the past, so we went out to Marketplace, including looking at Task. And there was a difference of about $1,700 in savings. And all really a flexible spending account vendor is a manager of funds. We send them information, they reimburse us from our pre-tax, helping pay for deductibles, co-pays, anything that's out of pocket that's recognized under the law. And so from looking at that and Ashley having some good experience working with Task in the past, you know, they are a savings, and my recommendation is we change from PayFlex to Task. We have in the past, we've had some issues with PayFlex, and we normally can get them straightened out, but just having it happen isn't fun. So my recommendation would be that we change that service, again, at about a $1,700 a year savings. And then finally, the ancillary coverages such as life, long-term disability, vision, voluntary life, all that remains through Metropolitan. We have 1 more year of contract on that. And that'll be nice, because then next year we'll look at the package as a whole, including the dental, and go negotiate that to the marketplace. Because usually that's how we get, I think, the best reductions in our premium structures when we have a package like that going out at one time. So I know I've put a lot in front of you. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Councilwoman Blubb.
First of all, Mike, thank you for every year working so hard on this. You always bring us back really good numbers. And I know the task at hand is always a big task, so I appreciate what you do for Bellevue. With that said, the question that I have is, knowing what the median age is of our employees, I see this becoming, and correct me if I'm wrong, a harder task as our workforce ages. Because my guess is that the medical concerns become greater. Things like high blood pressure, diabetes, DVTs. Would that be correct?
Yes, and that's a great time to bring up the fact that the city is being proactive in putting together a wellness plan of which I know you serve on, and we appreciate that.
And not to be frank, I've missed the last few
Well,
meetings for the first time in a
I think
couple of
you've got
years.
some stuff going on, but
Yeah.
anyway, it's a situation where we've moved so far ahead from where we were when we first started.
Right, I agree.
And I'd like to thank Jeannie Jennings. She's really done a great job in heading it up and getting it more accountable and so on and so forth. So, and as you remember from last year, we contracted with Lockton, and they have a great program where there's accountability, nurse advocate, things like that.
How is that going participation-wise?
You know, not bad. I think we had 78 or some the first time, which is great on a voluntary plan. And we have some great interest in the group that works on the wellness committee. So word of mouth, getting things around, that's what'll work. As we all know, wellness plans, it's just not like flipping a switch and everybody gets better and healthier. It does take time, but I think we've made the right decision as who we're working with our wellness plan. Also, and kind of getting back to answer your questions, this is a great way of helping to combat some of those issues, is being proactive and seeking, helping people that want help in different types of situations. And we're going to have we used to have the lunch and learns, but we're going to have programs and things like that. The nurse advocate is something that we've not had in the past, so it allows our people on a voluntary basis to reach out to these nurses and help assist them. Believe we're going to be opening it up to spouses on this upcoming plan year, because obviously they're a part of our claims experience. And so we're heading in the right direction on that. The other way to manage health plans, and I'm going to be honest with you, is plan design.
Right.
But I think the exercise that I took in going to Aetna, also known as Coventry, and United Healthcare, showed that Blue Cross wanted to still be obviously a partner with the city of Bellevue. And with that being said, I think next year we'll look at it again, as far as, because I'm sure Blue Cross and CHI will have made up by then. So.
But we do have concerns with our aging workforce
Yes.
or at the city of Bellevue.
Right.
That are going to affect these costs if our workforce doesn't start participating in things like the wellness
Like the
program.
wellness, yes.
And work on getting healthier. It's going to affect our taxpayers.
Yes, very much
And it's going
so.
to affect our city budget.
Yes, very much so. Well, I would have sure liked to have brought a zero increase, which
Right.
we have in a couple times. And our claims experience was better last year, but at least we're still able, when we do have some bad years, to manage it. And, but right, we need to be proactive. We need to, the support and the assistance that the city's providing, hopefully, as time goes on, more of our employees will take advantage of it.
And ultimately, it benefits our employees because
Yes.
it'll help keep their costs down as well as far as
Exactly.
premiums,
Exactly,
if we can make them more enthusiastic about participating.
yes.
Mike, are we still thinking about possibly in the future using some kind of incentive for participation or reduction in?
Yes, in fact, under this enrollment period, I believe we're providing an iPad as somewhat of an incentive for getting people involved.
I didn't
know
hear that last word. We're adding what?
An iPad
Oh, okay.
for people getting involved. I'm sure we'll find ways through maybe providing some gift cards throughout the year on certain functions and things like that. I know that Williams and Darris would be more than happy to provide a few gift cards, so.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilman Cook?
Mike, a couple quick questions. I guess, and I don't know, Rich, maybe you might need to help. What is the cost to the employee? I'm concerned more in dollars and cents. Whereas an employee, what is the increase going to be for a single versus a family?
The 7.2% increase applies to the employee's premium as well as the increase in the overall cost of the plan. Because like single employees, most of them pay 7.5 and the city subsidized 92.5, and then the family plans and the other coverages are the city has a subsidy of 82% and the employee is on the hook for 18% of it. Well, their premiums go up 7.2% for the medical portion of this.
And on number 3.
And there was
that-
participation from others in the city that were affected, and they had a say in selecting this option.
So I'm looking at number 3 on your handout you gave us, and it said current, there's a price for employee, employee spouse, employee, children, family, and then I'm assuming the renewal, and I'm looking at, like for an employee, an increase of maybe, I should have done my math, $44 a year, would that be accurate to say?
Times whatever percentage. Those are
Well, it's-
monthly premiums, so take that
Yeah.
whatever percentage is for the
Oh,
employee.
I see what you're saying, they're just paying, okay,
Yeah.
then that would not be inaccurate.
It would
But
not.
basically, we're seeing a 7.2%. I believe in our motion, or in our paperwork we were given, that 7.2% was about a $250,000 increase. And that would be shared by the employee and the city.
Mostly the city.
Oh, yeah, you're talking 8218, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just help me out with the basic little number. You know, a family of 4, mom, dad with 2 kids, when we start talking about hospital services, inpatient, going from deductible, then 50%, where it was 25%, or outpatient or maternity, if they had an event, like you said, and were in the hospital for a couple days, can you give me a little ballpark? They would today pay $100 and
Sure,
our
their
new policy-
exposure today, if they went in for a couple days and had a $30,000 claim, their exposure today would be $750 max out of pocket. And what we're proposing is that $750 be moved to $1,000 out of pocket. So $250 more
Okay.
per person.
And that would be somewhat, I know like co-pays, we're saying $15 to $30, so that's
Correct.
a 100% jump. A specialist co-pay 30 to 45, a 50% jump.
Right.
Okay. And the unions were receptive and somewhat thumbs up.
They
Right.
understood the
Compared-
situation, and
Yeah,
I think
compared to the price increase that they would
Okay.
have to
Right.
pay by not changing, and plus also, Councilman, the co-pays now go towards the max out-of-pocket. So that 35 or 40 or $50 co-pay would go towards that max out-of-pocket of
Okay.
$1,000.
Yeah, I probably would add real quick, Paul. Since 2012, we've had a health insurance committee that meets quarterly. That committee is made up of a representative from every union, including the city, and we review the claims loss during the year. When the quotes come in, Mike meets, we review them, and this year, like last year, there was a 100% consensus of the union's representatives to go with what's being proposed.
Good, thank you.
Councilman Preister.
Thank you. Mike, I like the idea of having the families involved in doing some of the preventive things. And I believe I heard you say that all of the prevention is free?
It's covered at 100% under healthcare reform law.
Okay, not free, yeah,
Right.
covered at 100%.
Right.
Okay, would that include smoking cessation, some of the Nicorette, or some things that assist people, or is?
And that's a great question. Those are things that we would try to promote through the Wellness Committee. And again, the costs, if there were some, would be very, very minimal. The 100% is more preventative for your preventative physical at your physician's office. That's what that's for. But that's another reason that we looked at going to Lockton, and then through my assistance with them and Janie's assistant, that we go out and bring in who we feel is the best for the city as far as dealing with those issues. And so be it a smoking cessation class, being a nutrition class. I know one time we took a little road trip to Hy-Vee, and they helped us go through, and I learned from this. They helped us go up and down the aisle, and there's little numbers where they're talking about what it is and how much it costs. There's little numbers there that denote what is healthy and what's not as healthy. So, I mean, there's some assistance out there that we're finding that I think for the most part, even when we had the lunch and learns, and yes, at Hy-Vee, we had a wellness lunch. It wasn't pizza or chicken or something of that sort, so. But we've gone from there to actually now having a formalized plan in place, and there's gonna be some accountability, and that's what we're looking for. Because, you know, it's a word-of-mouth program. When people see people feeling better, and, you know, they wanna know what's going on. Well, you know, I'm in that wellness plan,
Good.
so,
I wish it well.
thank you,
All right, thank you, Mike.
thank you.
3D is the city administrator's report. Comments must be limited to items on the current city administrator's report. Mr. Berlowitz?
And as usual, I would entertain any questions and/or staff. One thing I would point out that was not part of the report, but which Park Superintendent Mike Francis did hand out to you. It's a one-page memo in regard to, it says pool updates. It gives you a little information on some of the results of the ultrasound or the sounding testing of the pools. And so obviously, as we move forward, we'll be coming forward to the council for more dialogue on courses of action to deal with any issues that were found as a result of the testing.
Councilman Preister?
In follow-up to your comment about the pools, I noted in this week's World Herald that the $5 million is being spent by a private swimming group, Funplex, over off of Q Street. If we do something with our aquatics, I would really rather see us partner with somebody else than invest so much money for something that's only usable for 2 months at the most of the year. As schools shorten the summer more and more, it's just very expensive. It's fun, but that swimming is just very expensive in these aquatics parks. And if we could partner with somebody who's already doing it, I think it would be a wiser investment.
Obviously, we'll be looking at all avenues of finding the dollars to maintain a system, and so obviously we can partner externally. That would be a plus. So that would definitely something we should look at.
Anything else? Takes us to number 4, review and discussion without action of items on the agenda of the regular council meeting at 6 p.m. on November 24th. Number 3, approval of minutes and advisory committee reports, A through D. Anything on that? Okay. 4, approval of claims. 5, special presentations. Proclamation, or Mr. Williams. 6, no liquor licenses. 7, ordinances for adoption. Third reading, A, ordinance number 3780. B, ordinance number 3785. C, ordinance number 3786. Councilman Cook.
Thank you. I don't know who I'd direct this to, maybe the chief. And I know this is here to vote on tonight. I don't know why I didn't catch this, but part of my concern is how would we address, contractors? I mean, if there was a water main break or something, they're gonna be there more than 2 hours. I suppose we could say it's an emergency, but just in general, street construction repairs, I've seen crews out there for weeks, maybe tearing up part of a street. We did some work out on Fort Crook Road this summer, and I'll bet you there was things torn up for several weeks. And I know a lot of construction equipment is brought in by trailer.
And I can address that, Mr. Cook. Part of the amendment is it shall be within the discretion of the police as to what constitutes an emergency. So if such a situation like you describe occurs, there was a second proposed amendment that added that language, and I don't know if you're looking at an earlier version or not. It is.
It does mention I guess I was thinking more of an emergency, maybe of a water main break versus we just vote to do street repairs, not being so as. But that's fine. If that's we're comfortable with that, I'm comfortable with it too. All right, thank you.
8, ordinances for public hearing. A, ordinance number 3788, rezoning on Ashford Hollow North. B, ordinance, 8A1, approval of small subdivision plat. B, ordinance number 3789. 9, ordinances for introduction, first reading. A, ordinance number 3790, amending city code. B, ordinance number 3791, amending city code. C, ordinance number 3792, amending city code. D, ordinance number 3793. E, ordinance number 3794. F, ordinance number 3795. 9, ordinances for introduction continued. G, 3796, ordinance 3796. G1, approve and authorize mayor to sign confirmation agreement with Twin Creek LP and Bellevue Hotel Associates LLC. 2, approve and authorize mayor to sign assignment of real estate purchase. 3, approve and authorize mayor to sign assignment of joint development agreement. 4, approval of promissory note. 5, authorize Bellevue Municipal Building Corporation to close on the property. All right, 10, none. 11, resolutions, none. 12, A through I is consent agenda. Any questions on any of those? 12J, recommendation to Sarpy County Board. K, request for permission to award the contract for construction. Oh, Mr. Roberts.
Tonight, if you make a motion to approve that one, I need the sentence added, and for the mayor to sign the contract. That was inadvertently left out of the cover memo.
And for the mayor to sign the contract?
Sign the contract, yes.
I'll make that note. All right, that takes us back to pre-council agenda and executive session. Have a motion from anybody?
I might need help.
Okay.
I'll make.
All right,
I'll make a
Councilman
motion.
Cook.
For the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of an individual, I move to go into executive session to discuss 1, discussion on sale or lease of city-owned property on Cunningham Road. 2, negotiations with World Baseball Village. 3, discussion concerning procedure for personnel matters and investigations. 4, discussion on the sale or lease of city-owned property at Harlan and Betts Road adjacent to SP Benson Fleet Maintenance Building for a digital billboard. 5, update on progress of Bellevue Convention Center project.
Second.
Please vote. My vote is yes.
All voted yes.
All right, we will now go into an executive session at 2:08 PM to discuss those items listed by Councilman Cook.
Good evening and welcome to the Bellevue City Council meeting for Monday, November the 24th. Number 1 item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I don't see Minister Jeff Weaver here. Is Minister Weaver here? Is that Jeff Weaver that just walked in? No. So we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone standing, thank you. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll skip 1A on to item number 2. Sabrina, could you please call roll?
Mr. Carmichael. Mrs. Saniak.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Knutson.
Here.
Mr. Preister.
Here.
Mrs. Blood.
Present.
Item 2A, this meeting will be conducted according to the Open Meetings Act, posted in the entry to the council chambers. Item 3, approval of minutes and advisory committee reports. 3A, approval of agenda. Councilwoman Blood.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Sanyuk. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Item 3B, approval of consent agenda. Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Blood. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Item 3C is under consent, 3D under consent. Item 4, approval of claims under consent. Item 5, special presentations. 5A, proclamation, November 24th, 2014, as Robert D. Holtz Day. Do you want them to face this way? Okay. Are you going to say a few words? Anybody saying anything? Christine, were you going to say a few words after? Okay, all right. So here's the proclamation. Whereas Robert Holtz is the last known Tuskegee Airman in the state of Nebraska, born in November 1924 and celebrating his 90th birthday this month. And whereas while still in high school and having just reached age 18, Robert Holtz in 1942 joined the United States Army Air Corps and was sworn into service at Fort Crook, Nebraska. And whereas Robert received orders in July 1945 to report to Goodman Field, Kentucky under Base Commander Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., leader of the Tuskegee Airmen's framed 332nd fighter and was assigned to the 118th Base Unit Squadron D, honorably discharged February 1946. And whereas Robert Holtz was presented with Congressional Medal of Honor July 5th, 2007, in recognition of his unique military record, which inspired revolutionary reform in the armed forces. The Tuskegee Airmen were instrumental in fully integrating America's military. And whereas Robert Holtz, being an essential member of the Tuskegee Airmen, Inc., Alphonso W. Davis Chapter, Bellevue, Nebraska, was inducted into the Nebraska Aviation Hall of Fame in 2007. Now, therefore, I, Rita Sanders, Mayor of this great city of Bellevue, Nebraska, do hereby proclaim Monday, November 24th, 2014, as Robert D. Holtz Day. Would you say a few words?
My name is Christine Juergens, and along with being an officer of the Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated chapter, the Alphonso W. Davis chapter here out of Bellevue, Nebraska at Air Force Base, I am a teacher at Alphonso W. Davis Middle School in Omaha Public Schools. We are the aviators, and we are we conduct our school based on the tenets of the Tuskegee Airmen. I want to thank, Mr. Robert Holtz and his fellow soldiers for allowing us to use their legacy to carry on with our children and teach them what it really means to overcome obstacles, to rise above, and to become successful in life. I thank you, and we will continue to carry this on in your name and your honor. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to say something? No, go ahead. Thank you. On behalf of Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated and the Alphonso W. Davis chapter Tuskegee Airmen, we thank you for this honor. We certainly are trying to grow our organization, and we certainly want to recognize all of the Tuskegee Airmen. Mr. Holtz is in a unique group in that there were 15 original Tuskegee Airmen from Omaha. And when you look at the demographics of the 40s, you know that that is very unique. So he's in great company, and I'm proud to be a part of the organization, and I'm very happy that you gave him this recognition this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Robert Holtz, and I've been busy doing things today that caused me to be a little bit late here, but I do appreciate the honor that has been given me, and I want you to recognize the fact that the gentleman to my right here, Bob Rose, has done a lot to ensure that the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen would be known not only worldwide, but well, I can't say anything else about that. I'm overjoyed, though, at being here. Thank you.
Continue on the agenda for 5B, Mike Williams, William Darris and Association. 5B and 5B1, presentation and request for approval. Welcome.
Boy, what a very nice honor to follow. That's great. What we're going to ask for is the recommendation and approval of the 2015 plan year. As we discussed earlier, we've made some minimal changes to the plan design to get a renewal that started at 24% down to a renewal of 7.2%. The minimal changes are some copay changes and some out-of-pocket changes, some funding mechanism changes that allowed us to get it to the 7.2, staying with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Another change would be the dental coverage, which we had a 12% rate renewal, and we were able to negotiate with another carrier to have a 0 increase with a very similar, if not better, network provider, Emeritus. And so we would have no increase for that, and then also to change from our PayFlex, or flexible spending account provider, from PayFlex to Task, and we saved approximately, through the negotiations, $1,700 there. So are there any questions?
Questions from the council? I see none. Thank you, Mr. Williams. What are the wishes of the council? Councilwoman Sanyuk.
Motion to approve the request for the annual renewal of city employees' medical, dental, life, and disability insurance for 2015 as described before by Mr. Williams.
Second.
Second by Mr. Knutson. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6, liquor license none. Item 7, ordinance for adoption, third reading. 7A, ordinance number 3780. Sabrina, could you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 3780, an ordinance to amend Section 7-3, ordinance number 3704, subdivision ordinance relating to street lighting, to repeal such section as heretofore existing, to provide an effective date of the ordinance.
Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to make a motion to approve, but first I want to make some comments. The purpose of starting this was that in 2013, the city spent over $1 million just for streetlights in the city. $1 million when the sodium lights use more electricity and give reduced lighting than LED lights. LED lights are very efficient, up to 80% efficiency. So we could save 80% of that electricity and 80% of that cost if we could get all that back. We have heard from OPPD that they're in process of working on that, but it's going to take, as we heard today, another 1.5 years to get to that point. So at least they're in process, at least they've heard from us and from all of the other metropolitan cities that this is an area where we're trying to be more frugal with taxpayer dollars and maintain even better lighting than we currently have. So we're in process. This particular ordinance that I had requested doesn't give us all that we would like, but I think it's a good beginning, and we need to then monitor what happens from here on out. It doesn't require LED lighting, which I would prefer, but it does make reference to them doing LED lights and to moving in that direction. And it includes some spacing. So with some reluctance, but with enthusiasm for the fact that we're moving there, I move to approve ordinance, back to it here, ordinance 3780.
Second. Second by Councilman Blood. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Item 7B, ordinance number 3785. Sabrina, could you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 3785, an ordinance to amend Section 2-95 of the Bellevue City Code pertaining to procedures for a veto by the mayor, and to provide for the effective date of this ordinance.
Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. I had requested an amendment on this. The amendment would do two things. It would instruct any mayor to give a message with the veto as to the rationale, the reason for the veto. And my reasoning for that was so that a council would be aware of what the reason was, so that they may choose not to override it, or they would at least understand what they were working with. So that would be in it. And because state statute doesn't give any time reference, it doesn't say beyond when the mayor does the veto, when a veto override would be made. So I added a limitation because I don't think it should go on unlimited as it currently would. And I added that it would be within 2 meetings after the veto. And I would ask our legal counsel about, since this happens so rarely, any comment on that, or if I just make the motion to advance and then the motion to amend and we take the vote.
Mr. Sullivan.
Sure. I was looking at this. The only concern that I had if we went out 2 meetings is that could extend as far as 28 days. And there may be contracts laying in abyss, if you will, waiting to see what the status was. And so I was looking at some more finality. With that being said, I think I'm not even sure we've had a veto in your tenure as the mayor that I can recall. So it doesn't come up very often. We certainly could see how it works out. My only suggestion would be, and it would take some clear up drafting, is that we do have that the clerk shall notify the city council in writing of the mayor's veto. We could put a time limitation on that, like within 1 business day, and then put a provision in that would require any member to say, hey, I want this on the agenda within, say, 7 days, and that would at least tighten it up. If only from the standpoint is that may still stretch it not to the next meeting but the following meeting, but then it at least is getting it put on the agenda and moving forward as quickly as we can. But if you want to pass it as suggested, as I said, it doesn't come up very often.
Council.
It doesn't come up often, but in the interest of what you're suggesting, there's no hurry to do this.
No.
So I think in this case, we could probably just lay it over, redraft it. We can be certain of that language and then do it at the following meeting.
I'll try to put some language together and get it out to you guys fairly early, and you can decide whether I'm all wet or if you want to just, pass it the way it is or however.
Councilwoman Blood.
I would suggest also that you contact Councilman Carmichael, because I know that he had questions in reference to the language as well. And then I would also take it a step further. Ultimately, it looks like the legislature only did half their job
Right.
on this statute. I think that the mayor and Mr. Burowitz and I, who sit on the League of Municipalities Legislative Committee, this would probably be a really good issue that we could bring forward and ask them to finish the job and have maybe the league step forward and bring this to Lincoln and have our state senators actually do their jobs and finish this, because it's not been done correctly. And so what happens, which is what always happens when they don't do their state statutes properly, is it gets dumped in the municipalities' laps to try and figure out how to make it an ordinance. And we can't really do a proper ordinance because it's not been written properly. In my personal opinion.
Yep.
We need a motion then.
Mr. Peister.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a follow-up to Councilwoman Blood's comment. The legislature may not do it the way everybody wants. The legislature usually introduces legislation based on what somebody requests. A court rules on things but doesn't necessarily rule on everything. So the legislature, and they don't need my defense, but if they were only asked to do half of this, that's what they did. So
I would agree.
In this case, we could help to complete it and ask for the other half, and I would certainly support that. With that, I will make the motion to, let me pull up my calendar here. Well, I guess the next meeting would be December 8th. I move to carry this over to the December 8th regular council meeting.
Second.
Second by Mr. Knudsen. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Item 7C, ordinance number 3786. Sabrina, could you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 3786, an ordinance to amend Section 18-76 of the Bellevue City Code pertaining to parking of recreational vehicles in residential zones, and to provide for the effective date of this ordinance.
What are the wishes of the council? Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 3786.
Second.
Second by Mr. Knudsen. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Item 8, ordinance for public hearing, second reading. 8A, ordinance number 3788. Sabrina, could you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 3788, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the City of Bellevue, Nebraska as provided for by Article 3 of Ordinance number 3619 by changing the zone classification of land located at or about 48th Street and Rayner Parkway, more particularly described in Section 1 of the ordinance, and to provide an effective date.
Thank you. I'll now open for public hearing on this item.
Doug Kellner, Thompson, Dreesen, Dorner, here on behalf of the developer. We have a two-lot subdivision here. The north lot being developed as a single lot, and then this Lot 2 to the south being developed in the future into 53 residential lots. That preliminary plat was approved at Planning Board last Thursday for the 53 lot subdivision. That 53 lots will be part of SID 238, which is Ashford Hollow, and be included as part of that subdivision. You may have a few questions on the Lot 1 to the north. The person who's purchasing the land, his attorney is here to answer any questions on that lot.
Are there any questions from the council? Councilman Blood.
So the planning department was not comfortable with all the uses, and they were talking about creating a development agreement. Can you specify what concerns that you had?
Yes, the flex zoning, FX zoning, includes a lot uses. It's kind of a mixed industrial, light industrial, commercial zoning district, being proposed right next to the residential development. We weren't comfortable with some of those things being in that location, both adjacent to the creek and adjacent to the residential zoning district. We worked with the developer, both Lot 1 and 2, the homeowner, the party that's developing the homes on there, and then the potential owner of this one, and did the development agreement that will restrict some of the uses or prohibit some uses on that property that would otherwise be allowed in the FX zoning district.
And they were in agreement with that?
Yes. They have one that they would like to talk about.
With one exception we wanted to talk about, Larry Jobin, Mayor, members of the council, Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of Carson Stone and Supply. With me today is the founder and CEO of Carson Stone and Supply, Scott Carson. The whole idea of the development agreement, it was modified since the first time it was submitted, was really before we had it in the concept of prohibited uses only, and then after the Planning Commission meeting, we talked about having certain permitted uses and then certain permitted uses that could be moved to the conditional use category, and so that agreement does that. Also, one of the things that was discussed at the Planning Commission meeting was having a 15-foot height restriction on any outdoor supplies or displays, and that was acceptable to us as well. What I think was missed, and what I would like the council to put back in, because I think it's really important to Mr. Carson's business, is most of his business actually is wholesale. A lot of the materials and supplies and goods that he sells never actually even makes it to the site. It's direct shipped. So one of the things that the Planning Commission carved out of our, or made it a prohibited use actually, was this whole idea of warehouse and wholesale business. Well, that's actually what his business is. Very little of it is actually retail. Very few people actually come to the site. Most of the people that are looking to buy goods from Mr. Carson's business are contractors that are coming to look at the indoor and outdoor displays of the merchandise so they can get ideas for doing the same thing out in the field. So a lot of the items that they buy from Mr. Carson are either direct shipped or they're actually picked up at the site and taken and incorporated into whatever project site that they're working on. So, and I think we were splitting hairs a little bit because we talked about this being a landscape business. It's a landscape business in the sense it's hardscape. It's not really landscape in the sense that they're selling trees and bushes and things like that. So it's really more of a hardscape type business that is really more of a wholesale type business than it is a retail. He expects very few people, although they are more than welcome and it's open to the public for business, but he doesn't expect as many people to be coming on site for retail type uses. So I really need to get that warehouse and wholesale business stricken from the prohibited use section of Exhibit B. So that was really the primary reason for me being here, but I'm happy to explain about his business, and of course he's here also if there's any questions that I can't answer.
Ms. Sanyuk.
Since Carson Stone and Supply sells hardscape, then I would assume he has no lawn chemicals, fertilizer, nothing like that.
That's correct. And I guess the other thing I would point out is his business is to sell landscaped and enhancements for properties. In fact, he told me tonight that they're actually the paved part of his development for the parking areas, both on the north and south side of his building, are actually going to be permeable pavers. So it's actually, if you were going to talk about BMPs, he uses all of those. In fact, he captures all of the roof water in the drain spouts and uses that for his outdoor displays and water fountains and things like that. So virtually the entire 8 acres, except for the building itself, are pervious as opposed to impervious. So there is really no drainage issues with this site or with this operation.
Councilman Blood.
So I think it's really important because I'm sure other council people have gotten calls too. I've gotten just a ton of calls on this for some odd reason. And the calls have all consistently been the same. People thought that you're going to be washing equipment and machinery, and that wastewater is going to be going into the surrounding water in the area. They're worried about chemicals. And I see you shaking your head no, and I'm not disagreeing with you. And so, because it's my job to answer to the citizens, and because I don't like to be made a liar out of, the one thing that I'd like you or your client to do is just kind of walk us through, paint a picture for us with words, what the business is and what the business is not, what your neighbors are going to see and what they're not going to see. I think it's really important, since we're going to ultimately be the people who are responsible for saying yay or nay.
Yeah, I guess I would add a couple things, and I'll let Scott Carson talk about his business. He does have another location that's in Elkhorn, Nebraska, off 215th and Maple Road, West Maple Road. I would point out, I guess, that the 53 lots that are being subdivided immediately to the south as part of this development is Charleston Homes, and they're 100% comfortable with this development. In fact, they're going to be selling houses that abut this particular development. There is going to be about a 40-foot buffer between the single-family houses to the south and where his displays will actually take place. Also, there's a pretty significant grade change as it goes to the creek, so they sit substantially lower than the residential neighborhood that Charleston's going to build, as well as further to the south. With that, I think I'll have Scott kind of explain what it is that he does. I know that there's some photographs of his West Maple location in your packets, I believe, that kind of shows the outdoor displays and the indoor displays. So I think, and if not, I have some here that I could certainly show you as well. But with that, I'll turn it over to Scott, and he'll be able to answer any questions, and if I need to jump in, I will.
Good evening, Scott Carson, Carson Stone and Supply, 21530 West Maple. I think part of the disconnect has been that there was another landscape installation lawn care company a number of years ago, approximately 10 years ago, that was trying to acquire this same property. And we're not in the same business. We're all in the green industry, but they're having, the company in particular, you know, they have a substantial amount of staff and employees that are, you know, loading up products to bring to the, you know, end users, you know, residents or commercial properties, you know, such as myself. We just strictly sell hardscape products such as rocks, boulders, you know, river rock ground covers, basically no plants. And if you can kill it, we don't deal with it. It's real simple. And we are a master distributor for a couple large brick paver lines. So the idea and the concept is to build an outdoor showcase where contractors, you know, like Larry said, you know, retail's more than welcome to come, but I used to be a contractor in the landscape business. I ran a landscape business for 18 years. And part of the issue is you don't have a neutral place to bring a client to show off what you're proposing. You know, it's uncomfortable walking in to a stranger's backyard to show off the work that you did. So if I create this sales platform for the local landscape contractors, building architects, to model what they're proposing to their clients, the end user, just trying to make the transition more seamless, or the sales transaction. So.
Councilman Blood.
So again, trying to paint a picture with words, so almost like an outdoor showroom.
Correct, and that
like a park-like environment.
Absolutely, and our current facility, it's set up in a very similar manner where we have a creek dividing or is our east property line, which the outlots are residential housing. We're on a main frontage road, West Maple Road. So the land use being in a floodplain, gives me a great opportunity to show how we can, better and improve the property, that was deemed, significantly less value, with just, landscape. So hopefully that answers your question.
Mostly, to be very frank.
Yes.
I want to make sure, since this is televised, that you're answering the questions of the neighbors that don't want you there.
Sure.
And so the more detail that you're able to answer these questions, the more positive responses we can give to those neighbors.
Have you seen, Ms. Paul, have you seen these pictures? And so I'm unfortunately, you don't have an overhead projector where you could actually display those, but I think, if you had any concerns, they certainly could drive to the location at 215th and West Maple Road. Also, the packet, it's got all sorts of photographs of what he actually does as opposed to what the perception of what he might do. So hopefully that alleviates any concern.
Ms. Sanyuk.
So will there be there'll be landscaping between the back of your lot, or, I'm sorry, no, the back of your lot backs up to the creek. All right, and then in front is okay. So do you have like large piles? Do you have piles of rock, piles of shale, stone?
Anywhere that we have a site issue, primarily where Charleston Homes development is, that there's a 40-foot buffer that is required to go in there, and we're going to put a significant amount of landscaping, large berms, evergreen trees, deciduous trees in there with our stone incorporated in them. When it comes to the product in our yard, yeah, we have piles of rocks. I would come up with better words, but there are piles of rocks. But we do have any small aggregate material. We have them in containment bins. That is very much an industry standard for retaining your goods. And part of the beauty is if I can screen out the outlots to the south, the line of sight along 48th Street is significantly lower as you work your way into the property, towards the east or along the creek. So your line of sight from a vehicular standpoint should be, relatively minimal, peering down on, the heart of what would be considered, the eyesore your concern, which I 100% understand. We've had great luck where we're at currently. We took a property that was a complete, absolute eyesore, and there's some very high-dollar homes to the west of our current facility, and we've had nothing but praises, from the neighbors surround. We have not had one complaint of any issues.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to know.
Thank you.
Mr. Cook?
Mr. Carlson, you got a very nice looking building from the pictures. Their displays outside look outstanding. I hope, that if this all goes through, that, we'll see at least that, if not better. I was a little bit concerned about the buffer, but you've answered my questions. I think, Chris, maybe you can help me. Was there part of some of the restrictions as far as maybe going 15 foot, no higher than 15 foot in stacking or piling? Is that a prohibited?
Yes, that was a condition that was added at the Planning Commission. There was a concern among some of the planning commissioners about items stacked too high, and that 15-foot limit on items stacked in the yard was put in that agreement.
I know there was a lot of conversation with the planning commission. What was their concern about the wholesale and resale? Was that what could maybe come at this site later? Or what, do you recall the issues? I know Tammy was probably maybe there.
I was there also. I think the main concern with that was warehousing. And the way it's written in the zoning ordinance, the use is make sure I get it right.
It says warehouse and wholesale businesses.
Warehouse and wholesale businesses. And the concern really was warehousing.
Okay.
But the way because it's lumped together as a single item in the zoning ordinance, that's why they put that in there.
I felt we were, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Mr. Jobin, throughout that, the discussion indicated that wholesale is one of the main parts of their business. I think we had said that we're considering this to be the landscaping, that type of business, and those of us who are with the city now understand what he's doing, but in 15 years, whatever, if we're not here, somebody comes up and says, hey, he's doing wholesaling of these boulders and stuff, he's not allowed to do that. That is his primary concern there, or one of the concerns there.
I think the primary use, obviously, is selling hardscape, landscape type materials, but he does it on a wholesale basis. So like I said at the planning commission, I think we're splitting hairs here, but I want to be really clear that that's what he's doing, so someone doesn't come in and say, wait a minute, he's wholesaling this stuff, he's not retailing it. I mean, that was my concern, even though I agree that the primary or principal use is probably landscaping, sales and supplies or whatever, but my fear is the way he sells could maybe come in conflict with that. So that would be a big mistake, obviously, when he acquires the ground and puts up his 10,000 square foot building and puts in all of his outdoor displays, and someone comes by and says, wait a minute, what are you doing?
Sure. A couple other issues real quick. We got 3 emails pertaining to this, and I just want to maybe make sure they were addressed either by you, sir, or by the city. One, I don't think it pertains too much to the city. We had a gentleman that was concerned about Anderson Grove Elementary School in the development in and of itself, not so much with Carson's. The houses, the school's their complaint was that the school is filled and we need another school out there, but it's not in the Bellevue School District, it's in Papillion School Districts. And I would just ask maybe Chris if that would maybe be, that email could be forwarded to the Papillion School District, just.
We send, and actually, I think this is probably a little premature for this development. We do have the 53 lot subdivision going through as well, and it was brought up that, yes, the lot 2 of this development will be divided into 53 lots. I believe Tammy talked to this gentleman on the phone after he sent this email. We do send all of our preliminary plats to the appropriate school district for their comment.
Thank you.
So this would have gone out to Papillion La Vista Schools, to their superintendent, for comment, and I'm going to say at this point, I don't believe we did receive any comments from them
Sure.
regarding the proposed single-family
I just
subdivision.
want to make sure that when we get these types of memos or emails, that people know that we do look at them. The second one was a reference to sidewalks, lack of sidewalks. I believe the person that wrote said she or her husband were in a wheelchair, and they were concerned about maybe the travel, additional traffic, and the streets. Are we addressing any of that?
Rayner Parkway from 48th Street back toward the theater, as a part of this development and the single family, will have a 10-foot sidewalk trail on one side of it and I can't remember the width, more of a normal sidewalk on the other side of it, that the SID, Ashford Hollow, will be responsible for putting in. Along 48th Street, there was already a wide sidewalk / trail that was put in as part of the widening construction of 48th Street. So there will be sidewalk access along both sides of Rayner Parkway and the east side of 48th Street.
Okay. And I know that when these streets were developed, 42nd Street comes through, Rayner comes from 36th Street, they're wide streets. They should be able to handle the traffic. Hopefully, we can get most of the trucks and vehicles, you know, on 48th Street coming and going versus between 36th and 48th.
Yeah, I would expect that traffic to this facility will come from either Highway 370 or up on Cornhusker rather than through, you know,
Right.
I don't know why any of it would go through a neighborhood
And the
unless they
actual
are
entrance,
actually
I
doing the
believe, is
business.
48, on 48th Street, the egress and.
That's correct.
Okay.
There is no access to the residential neighborhood.
And just one, last one, email we got was that a person was satisfied with the restrictions, and whatever restrictions, they just wanted to make sure that they're, how do they say it? That we sort of list them or talked about them, I don't know how important that is. It will be part of the motion as far as any restrictions or conditions on the land.
And that's part of the development agreement that you would approve.
Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan.
I generally don't comment on these when they're doing platting or conditional use permits, but I do want to say I'd be a little remiss if I didn't. I've done business when I did landscaping at my own home, bought the materials from Carson out in Elkhorn. The place is really cool. It's actually, I probably went there more than I needed to just to check things out. Maybe it's a little boy's playground, I don't know. But very well kept, really neat display, and my opinion, for what it's worth, would be a nice amenity to our community.
Are there any other questions from the council? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there others that would like to speak on this item? See none, I'll close the public hearing. Item 8B, ordinance number 3789. Sabrina, could you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 3789, an ordinance to amend Section 2-30 of the Bellevue Municipal Code pertaining to the City Council's order of business, to repeal such section as heretofore existing, and to provide for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. I'll now open for public hearing. Ms. Sanyuk.
Before we begin, I'd like to just give a short synopsis of this ordinance so that before you come to speak, you understand what it is and what it isn't. What I'm proposing with this ordinance is that we change the format of public requests to be heard, hopefully into something more productive, more positive, maybe even something that people can learn from if they watch these meetings. As it stands now, you, the public, come to the podium and you present us with questions or concerns, complaints, problems, and we stare back at you silently because the Open Meetings Act prevents us from discussing anything that is not printed on this agenda. So you get no answers, no resolution, and we get frustrated, downright frustrated, because we cannot answer you. So what I'm trying to do here is to find some middle ground amongst the spectrum on different ways that different cities run public requests to be heard. And there are various ways that it's being run. On one end of the spectrum, you have the Nebraska League of Municipalities, which, for those of you who don't know, is an organization that advocates for cities, towns, villages, helps us get legislation passed so that we can operate efficiently and effectively. I asked their legal counsel, Gary Crumlin, if the League of Municipalities has a position statement on public requests to be heard. And here is what he emailed me, or part of what he emailed me. He said, while there is disagreement amongst attorneys, imagine that, whether an open forum is appropriate, the League has generally recommended that city councils not use the open forum for non-agenda items, or use great care if they place an open forum on the agenda. Under law and policy, it is important for the public to provide input on issues before the council. The issue regarding an open forum, however, is whether items that are not on the agenda should be discussed by the public at a meeting. Now, notice he's not talking about the city council discussing an item. He's saying that the public should not even be discussing items that are not on the agenda. Why? Because the Open Meeting Act dictates that we must allow ample advertisement of anything that's going to be discussed at that council meeting. So the league's position is not just that the council shouldn't be discussing it, the league is saying that the public shouldn't even come to the podium and discuss a non-agenda item. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you have cities that run it as we have been doing, open forum. People can get up and say anything they want. The city of Papillion runs it this way. But there are cities who agree, who concur with the league's suggestion. The city of Omaha, for example, only allows public discussion on items that are on the agenda. They don't let the public come up and say anything they want. They can only talk about agenda items. So what I'm trying to do, again, is to find some middle ground between these two extremes on the spectrum. And here's what I'm proposing. If you come to a council meeting and you want to talk about something that's already on the agenda, nothing changes. You don't need to fill out a form. You can come up to the podium, you talk for 5 minutes. Same as it's always been. We can respond because it's already printed on the agenda. If, however, you want to come and you want to talk about something that's not on the agenda, then I would ask that you fill out a form as specifically as you can. And the form will be available online, or it'll be available in the city clerk's office. You fill out the form and you submit it 1 week prior to the council meeting at which you wish to speak. And the reason we're asking for 1 week is for 2 reasons. Number one, we need to allow staff some time to check out your problem. So let's say you put on the form, there's a big pothole on the street in front of my house, it's such and such an address, been there for 3 weeks, I want to know why somebody can't fix it. You submit that, it goes from Mr. Berlowitz to Mr. Roberts gives it to street department needs some time to go out and take a look. And maybe they come back and say, you know, we're sorry, nobody called us about that. We'll get to it within the week, or whatever. But the thing is, we need some time to check out your problem. So that's one of the reasons we're asking for a week ahead of time. Number two, we need to get your subject, your question, your topic printed on the agenda, which then allows us to provide you, when you come to that council meeting to speak, we at least have an answer for you or we have some information for you. So those are the 2 reasons we're asking for a week lead time. We need to get it printed on the agenda, and we need staff to have some time to go check out your problem. We'd very much like to give you answers. Right now, we can't. And many times there's a very logical reason for why things are happening the way they are, but we can't tell you about it unless it's printed on the agenda for that night. So that is what I'm proposing. Again, I'm looking for middle ground between only allowing you to speak on agenda items or allowing you free reign. And I'm not sure that either one of them is the way that I'd like to be doing it. I'd like to find some middle ground where you could get some answers. I think that would be a far more productive way to run this segment of the meeting. But let's see what you think.
I'll now open for public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please do so.
Chuck Frederick, 1511 Madison Street. First of all, I want to just say, hope you all have a nice Thanksgiving, and I hope you're as blessed as I am, as my family, and I hope you and your family are also blessed as much as we are. Back a couple of years ago, Councilman Blood tried to kind of do the same thing, wanted something written, and then the city administrator would decide what questions, who would come up and ask and could talk. And to me, that's against free speech. Ron Peacock, if you read his article in the Bellevue Leader, says leaving it the way it is just as good as it is right now. In refuting Mrs. Senyak, Councilman Senyak's thoughts about this is that if you don't answer at the meeting, that's not a crime. In other words, somebody comes up and has a concern, you've got 2 weeks in order to reply to the person that's speaking, and to make it even talk about, well, Mr. Frederick talked about the financial statement, and then da-da-da-da, so then you can respond 2 weeks from now, if you don't any sooner, and just repeat at the meeting that what the outcome was. And maybe in the meantime, you might even contact me. In the World Herald, back November 2nd, there was an article written about me, and in that article, it quotes Council President Kathy Senyuk said she is frustrated that television viewers hear only Frederick's side when he testifies. Just because we don't respond, it doesn't mean he's right, she said. Senyuk said city staffers have gone to great lengths to respond to Frederick's complaints. Number one should be concerns, not complaints. And unfortunately, people have not responded to what I've talked about. And just to give you a few examples is that I've talked about having the state auditor come in and do the state audit next year. I did that a couple times, and no response from anybody. That's not a complaint. That's something that I think is something that should be done to make sure that our financial house is in order. I talked about the library. Land shouldn't be sold. No response from anybody. So when I talk about it, you got 2 weeks to respond to me, and you can even mention that at the meeting that, well, Mr. Frederick talked about the library and the land that we shouldn't sell, and now we agreed we should not sell that land. So you can respond then. There's no reason you have to respond with somebody. Doing it for a week ahead of time, you might be surprised, but I'm not coming down here much anymore. I mean, in other words, I've had enough talking to this council. Oh, I do have one question, though. Is this second reading, is the new council going to be the one that's vote on this, or the old council? Who's going to vote on this next meeting?
We don't know that answer. There could be a motion to waive 3 readings and vote today, or there could be a motion not to, or that otherwise doesn't pass, and it would then go to the new council. I can't answer that question.
So you don't vote on it today, then it'll be the new council 2 weeks from now then?
That'd be correct.
Okay. I would certainly wait until the new council. I'm hoping that the new council will maybe address some of the problems that people who come up here and talk about will address them more directly. I've also in the past talked about the monthly financials is not a balance sheet, and anybody who thinks that the balance sheet and the monthly financials are the same doesn't understand accounting. And I've been criticized like I don't understand accounting. Well, I know the difference between a monthly balance sheet and a balance sheet. I've talked repeatedly about the $540,000 that the fire chief wanted the city council to hire a collection agency, and I never got an answer, except that the fire chief came at one time inappropriately and said it was about 2%. I never got a figure for the number. I mean, how difficult it is for somebody, the city administrator, the finance guy, somebody to tell me what that number is. I still haven't got that number. It just, and the thing is that if you're going to change it so that Mr. Berlowitz is going to get the sheets ahead of time, if something happened between 1 week after you submit the form, you want to talk about something, it could be something pretty important, pretty serious, it might be even a compliment of something that we might want to say, it can't be done. So in my case, I'm not coming down much anymore, and probably no more this year, except I may have to come down to watch, see what happens next meeting. But the thing is that when I ran for mayor, what I said was I was going to not fire, which is an article. I was going to replace.
Mr. Frederick, you need to stay on the subject, which is public request.
It is. It is on the subject.
Your 5 minutes is up. Thank you.
No, I don't. There's no 5 minutes on this.
Yes, there is. Yes.
Well, I'm not going to send a form to Mr. Berlowitz when I was the one who said he should be replaced. I mean, that doesn't make
Mr.
sense.
Frederick, could you please take a seat?
Sure.
Are there others that would like to speak on this item?
I didn't know there's rule for 5 minutes in this situation.
Hi, my name is Brian Hanson. I'm a resident of Bellevue at 2704 Georgia Avenue. I just distributed a letter to the council members and mayor, and just want to summarize some of my feelings of this proposed change. I appreciate hearing the explanation tonight of why it takes place, but I think this is a chilling change to the way we've been doing business for the last 4 years in Bellevue. It's contrary to both the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska, where people are guaranteed a fundamental right of people to speak unabridged, to address and to seek a redress of grievances from their governments. So when we heard the council or the League of Municipalities say you can't do that, I think they're running up against a pretty big impediment there. I'm not a lawyer, but just see that. Public forums, which we have here, free speech rights, instead of being diminished, are actually enhanced, and there's a court case on the second page that I detail that out. And it's not really up to the municipality to set the stage of what should be discussed or what should not be discussed. That's up to the person and their ability to be a free person. Free speech means free speech, in short. No disparagement of Mr. Berlowitz, but vesting the gatekeeper or status with him. He's an honorable person, I guess, to the best of my knowledge, but you may have a person in that position who's less than that or decides to operate in a different manner. So I think that's unfortunate. A friend of mine in Colorado serves on a water board, and I think what we're seeing from Council President Sanyuk is a solution to be able to interact with folks. And on page 3, I detail what he does in Colorado on his water board is that they have a specific section at the early part of the meeting which allows for public requests to be heard on non-agenda topics. This announces to the whole world, it's noticed, it's evidenced in the paper, etc., that we're not going to be having non-agenda topics are going to be brought up, and the discussion may or may not conform to whatever, and I think that would satisfy the concerns and issues that were brought forth with this change. But I think it's a chilling statement. The situation has run for, or the ability has run for 4+ years to operate in this manner. Clearly, I think to go to the far extreme of not being able to even talk to your government entities and stuff like that is truly chilling. And I hope you look at this again or look at it in more detail. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Ms. Sanyuk.
No one's proposing that you not be able to talk. That would be a chilling change. What I'm saying is if you come to talk about an agenda item, you come up and talk, nothing changes. If it's a non-agenda item, then we would ask that you fill out a form. Now, there are lawyers who would disagree with your friend, saying that printing non-agenda items to be discussed doesn't cut it. There are lawyers who would say you have to specifically state every topic that's going to be discussed. And there are lawyers who would say you don't. So it's a toss-up. But I like your friend's idea, and let me throw just this out for some thought. It might not be a bad idea to move public requests to be heard up to a higher place in the agenda. That way, if you come to talk about an item that's on the agenda, like a current business, if you do it at the end, we probably have already voted, and it's after the fact. So I appreciate that idea. There's nothing that says you couldn't move it up higher, but we'd have to do that by ordinance.
Councilman Blood.
But if they're unhappy with the way you vote, then they don't get to express to you why they're unhappy, why you voted a certain way too. I mean, that no matter what we do, how we do it, somebody's going to be unhappy with how we do it. When you go back to when we first tried, no matter who points fingers at supposedly whose idea it was to try and change public comment, I guess I took the heat at the time because I was council president. So I guess apparently I was the one that tried to change it last time. The bottom line is that public comment for us sitting up here is that we want to try and make Bellevue a better place. And so the way it doesn't work right now is that people come forward and we don't have a symbiotic relationship with the people that come forward to the podium. And often the people that come forward, we're able to resolve, if we could just talk, we could resolve the issue in 30 seconds, literally, by being able to open our mouths. And we don't get that luxury because of how it was set up by a previous council, which is nobody sitting here today. And so 6 years ago, we tried to fix that. We tried multiple ways, but it didn't work. So we again did a lot of research. Our council president took the lead, and we tried to find some middle ground, not taking anything away, but trying to add to it so everybody gets the chance to still speak, but adding to it the fact that we can try and find a way to find resolution, but people aren't going to be getting turned away. And I think that that's kind of the impression that people are getting, is that if it's on the agenda, you still get to come and speak. And if there's an issue that's not on the agenda, that you're giving us the opportunity to get it on the agenda and allow you to speak, and for us to fix it for you and get it to staff if there's something that we can do to resolve it in the interim. And regardless of who's the city administrator, ultimately, you know your legislative body is the council. And so if your city administrator is not letting you do something, sorry, Dan, I'm throwing you under the bus. If your city administrator isn't catering to you, I don't know if that's the right phrasing, but isn't doing his job, then you pick up the phone and you call Councilman Carmichael or Councilman Cook or Councilwoman Blood or whomever, and you say, you know what, I've been trying to get on the agenda and this is what's going on, and I guarantee you your council person is going to be making your city administrator get you on that agenda. That's the other thing, is that ultimately that may be who the conduit is, but ultimately your legislative body is your council, which is another reason that we're asking for this change. It is unproductive to sit here and stare at you guys at the end of every council meeting. We work for you, and how can we help you if we just sit here and we can't respond to you? And the other issue is that ultimately people can come up here and say inaccurate information about multiple things, and rumors have legs and take on a life of their own in Bellevue. And how long have you lived in Bellevue? For quite a while?
Almost 20 years.
And you can telephone, teleflora, tell a Bellevueite, Bellevue takes on a life of its own when it comes to rumors. And unfortunately, that's been very detrimental to Bellevue in many ways. And so when we have people come up here and say inaccurate things, they take on a life of their own many times, and it's been really a negative thing for Bellevue. And for a city that's trying to move forward with economic development, and I don't know if Jim Risto came tonight. I wish he had. That's unfortunate. Now that everything is on the internet, especially our council meetings, when we have people that are looking for economic development and looking to move Bellevue forward and to bring their businesses here to town, one of the things they do is they look to see, what's going on in Bellevue, what's the mood in Bellevue, do Bellevue citizens like our community? And if there's negative things that are being said at council meetings and the council's not responding, how do you think that looks to outsiders? Probably not very positive. So I don't want to drag this on and on. So the point being is that, we're working hard to try and make this a better experience. We're not trying to take something away. We're trying to make it better. And I hear what you're saying, and I never want to take away a citizen's voice, ever. But what's the middle ground? And the middle ground is to create something more symbiotic. And right now, that's not what's in existence.
Can I respond?
Absolutely.
I think it's one of the reasons why I took an oath of office when I was in the military as a career person. You all took an oath of office. I mean, we see things being chipped away. Mr. Holt took it, years ago, and 90 years strong, one example. But to limit the speech, some of it may just be criticism. Some of it may just be people blowing off steam, and the person has a right to say that. If Officer Smith drives his cruiser around the corner and rolls over my flower bed all the time, no.
But we're not limiting.
Nothing like that.
How
I'm
are
going
we
to take that
limiting
up,
it?
not in the public forum. I'm going to take it up with my council person or the chief and say, hey, look, can you not cut the corners so sharply, or something like that. I mean, there's certain issues that deserve to be, brought to a council, and hopefully those issues will be there, but to just say that an issue is vague, I would change the declarative shall put it on a piece of paper, may put it on a piece of paper, or the form, and have it reviewed that way. I mean, maybe that person doesn't want a response from you all. That's another outcome. I mean, folks have a right to be heard and stuff. I mean, there's,
They absolutely have the right to be heard, and they're still being heard. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't change the fact that they still have the right to come to the podium. They're still going to be heard. We're not taking that away from them. We're just asking them to let us know what they're going to talk about so we can respond.
Right. And suppose I just want to say, I want to criticize Administrator X for his performance in office. Is that viewed as a slanderous or a negative statement, or do I need more information from
Do you want to
the
answer
city
that?
administrator to answer that back? I think not. I mean,
Mr. Carmichael has a question. Mr. Carmichael, or do you have a statement? Please.
When they're done.
that's all I got.
Go ahead, Mr. Carmichael.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, I just wanted to tell you, thank you for coming up. I take your concerns about free speech very seriously. And since this has come onto this agenda, I've put a lot of thought into that, and I still haven't reconciled that in my mind. I don't know how I'm going to vote on it yet. However, as Councilwoman Blood said, it disturbs me on occasion when disparaging remarks are made about individuals in this public forum, and I don't have the ability to respond to that. In that context, I think there's a potential that this is a good thing because it does allow me, as the representative of Ward 1, to speak to individuals that have a concern there. I have many people call me during the weeks, and I respond to their complaints. I send emails to Dan, I send emails to the staff, trying to resolve the issues or the questions that they have. But the fundamental right to speak before your elected government, I think, is established and well-established rights that we have as citizens of this country. So I just wanted to tell you thank you, and I haven't made my mind up yet on this.
Thank you.
Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. And Mr. Hanson, I would compliment you too on your well-reasoned and thought-out letter and your willingness to take the time to petition your city council. And in this case, you are on the agenda. The issue is on the agenda so that we can openly discuss it. Part of the reason the Open Meetings Act has that language is because I was in the legislature, and that's one of the things I got in the Open Meetings Act. And the reason was because I was hearing from people that councils, school boards, political subdivisions of all stripes, power districts and others, were acting behind closed doors and not following some of the guidelines of the Open Meetings Act. So that requirement went through the legislature that it has to be announced in advance to the public for any discussion to be held. And so now, as they say, be careful what you ask for, you may get it. It's in statute, and we have to abide by it. The statute also provides that governing bodies, and by the way, you make excellent eye contact, you're very attentive to people who are speaking to you, and I really respect that.
My Air Force speech training, I guess, I don't know. I care about what you have to say, though. I mean, it's an interaction. It's not just a
Exactly.
here and here.
And I think you see that we care about what
Absolutely.
you and other people are saying. And the bottom line for us, how can we have a dialogue? How can we get to the result? How can we solve the problem? And that's where we're trying to get, and I think you want to get there as do we.
And that's my proposed offer of a thing. I mean, with that non-agenda item topic that I mentioned, you may not be able to respond. Say, hey, we'll have to get back to you in a week or so. We'll put it on the next council agenda or something like that. I mean, that gives at least some interchange or at least some things. But I think to squelch it off is just, or it could devolve to that, of saying, we're tired of hearing Citizen X complaining about this, and that, and, shut them down, Dan. I mean, I don't know if you do it or not, but,
Sure.
We're tired of hearing the same person.
Right. Let me respond to two things. One, there's nothing in this language that says the city administrator has the authority not to allow you to speak. Absolutely nothing. So he has no authority to do that in this language, and if you can see it, please point it out to me or anybody else. So he's doing the very same thing that all of us have to do, and later, outside of your time, I will go over that and read specifically how we have more stringent guidelines than what we're asking you. So it's not do as I say, not as I do. We have the same thing. The other thing I'd like to comment on is free speech. As a champion of the Open Meetings Act, there's more language in there from me than probably any other living former senator, because I care about free speech. Having done that, a part of that says governing bodies have to operate. We have to have decorum and rules and procedures and way for a meeting to operate and move smoothly. Anything on the agenda that you would like to speak on, or anyone else, can get up, can let us know you'd like to speak on it, and we can make a motion to open it up for a public hearing anytime, any meeting. That's your right to free speech, and we have done that, and we will continue to do that. Free speech doesn't mean you can get up and speak anytime on any subject, anywhere, in a meeting. We're not infringing your rights in the public to petition, to send emails, to send letters. So free speech is important, but we have to maintain a way of functioning as a meeting. We have Robert's Rules of Orders, we have state guidelines, we have city guidelines, and that's because we're a representational democracy. You elect us to do your business, and we have to be able to function to do it. We have regularly scheduled public hearings, and we have all the open time. So there is a little bit of restriction in having somebody tell us in advance what they want to speak on, but we're not keeping anybody from exercising their free speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Mr. Knudsen.
I just want to make just kind of a quick comment. I agree with a lot of what's being said tonight. But also one thing that I've found out in my past 6 years of being here is everybody has an opinion on how things should be run and how things should be done. And just because you get up and tell us that this is what you think and what you perceive that should be done doesn't necessarily mean that it should be done. I had a constituent of mine that just because I wouldn't change an ordinance to benefit just him, that would adversely affect the other constituents up in my neighborhood, he wanted to recall me because I wouldn't change the ordinance for him. I mean, and that's kind of the attitude that some people have sometimes, and I guess you get some of this that you listen to and people that talk, and they have their own opinion on how things should be run in the government and what we should be doing. And if I say this and, this is my opinion on how you should be doing something, you should listen to me. Well, I'm sorry, but that's not always true. We have 6 members up here, and then the mayor and the city administrator and the staff to deal with, and we make decisions based on discussions with them and with logic worked out among them most times. It's not always logical, but we try. But we do make an attempt to do the right thing up here. And one thing you'll find out, and most of you people should know, is you're not going to make everybody happy all the time. So you're always going to have somebody that's going to be upset. But we do try to do our best up here.
Perry Guido, Fire Chief. I'd like to say that I'm in support of this ordinance. I think I speak on behalf of a number of the directors. I know Rich Severson and I have had discussions. We've had people come up and speak on elements of our departments, and I've been very frustrated that I haven't been able to address statements that have been made that are not accurate. And the problem is that this is televised. And even though, yes, we could come back a week later and we could dispute those statements, I can't guarantee, and neither can anybody else, that all the people that were watching that the week before are now going to see and watch the exact same television program again and make sure that all those people have heard my side of the story or heard the truth. And I think, I don't know how anybody could be upset that all we're asking for is the opportunity to address the questions or the concerns of the citizens at that time. And that's all I'm asking for. It really isn't hindering anybody from bringing anything forward. It's actually allowing other members to be able to speak and address the concerns. And we've had some individuals that just use this as a means to air their complaints, but have never ever come over to my office, ever, and asked to sit down and talk or discuss their concerns. And so if we could just have that opportunity, I got to tell you, it would alleviate some frustration on my part and the part of other directors. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thanks for everybody that has spoken on this subject, because it is a very difficult one. As I sit here and I'm the sixth council member to talk, I'm checking off everything that I was going to talk about, so this should be a little short. One thing that is significant for me is that we're not going to stop anybody from talking. If you're going to talk on something that's not on the agenda, we're asking you to submit some type of a form. And I'm hoping, with Mr. Berlowitz and our staff, we'll make that very easy for you to do. It might be a link on our website. It might be a form that you can fill out, but I hope we make it as easy as possible for you to submit the information on you and what you want to talk about. That's important. And it's already been said, but we're not sitting here and asking Mr. Berlowitz to say, well, I'm not going to put these 3 on, but these 4 I will. If you submit a request, my expectation would be is that you will be put on the agenda. As simple as that. What we're hoping for is that Mr. Berlowitz, with his staff, can maybe resolve the issue. And I don't know why people would not want us to be able to communicate back our feelings and maybe a solution to the problem. But I hope we make it very simple, and some of the frequent flyers here maybe can fill out a form and photocopy it 20 times and just send it and send it and send it and send it and send it, and they can speak. But there has been very negative comments made to us, and I think very inappropriate comments made towards us and staff, that I think we're only asking for a fair opportunity to speak back. The bottom line is, for me, I had a friend of mine make a comment to me. If you turned on, either on YouTube or on TV, and listened to the last 10 or 15 minutes of our city council meeting, you'd probably think that it was coming to an end, put the house up for sale, and move. And I'm telling you, because of the stuff that we hear, we're all horrible, we're all terrible, and we don't know what we're doing. And I would ask anybody that watches this, put your name in, run for the city council, and sit here in these chairs. I enjoy it. I want to do it. I love talking to people, and I love trying to fix problems. And I think we all feel that same way. All we're asking to do is to let us respond back to you, and let's take the negativity out of this. Let's communicate, let's respond, and let's fix a problem. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Ryan Stednitz, 1412 Warren Street. In the thing that was proposed here, it says if the city administrator determines that the topic described is too vague to determine what the requester will speak about, the individual may be required to clarify the request. I guess, what is vague, what's determined as vague would be one of my concerns, just because I might not be able to convey my message in a email or letter. I don't want to come off as vague, so if I want to be able to come up and speak, that might hurt me when I come up to speak, because the first time I came up to speak before, I was a little bit scattered and everywhere, pretty nervous, and so kind of intimidating when you come up here for the first time, and so it almost deter, in my mind, some people who want to speak because they would see this as another hoop they have to go through, another government type thing they have to go through. And I feel a lot of people don't think that the government works for them on all levels, And anytime you put more regulations or more restrictions on people, it kind of ties their hands, and I just see, and then it grows to something more. And personally, I just think this is, you know, if somebody would want to write a week before what they want put on the agenda and request, and the council could approve it, and then they put it on the agenda, I mean, that'd be great. But still, at the end of the night, someone would want to come up and speak and state their mind within reason. I mean, we all know you can't scream fire in a building. We understand that, but within reason and all that, I think that's acceptable. But if, you know, if someone would want to get clarification, would want to do that, then that person would go and get that request document and submit it to you guys, and that would show that they are willing to get comments back from you because they'd want it on the agenda. Now, if that person's not doing that, you'd be able to see that that person's not really willing to work with you. They're just sitting here to bicker. But then also, if the person's sending requests and not getting answers from the council or anybody like that or getting on the agenda, it also see, you know, and I don't want it to become, well, one person has one idea and then they can't speak, and, you know, if we just have to stay on topic of the agenda, well, if you can't make it for whatever reason to that council, you might not be able to speak to the agenda. And I've started to reach out to my council member and spoke to him some more and voiced my concerns, but I still just think this is limiting our freedom of speech. And I think this provision could be written in a better way to still keep the public request to be heard, but also have another way for the public to request stuff to be on the agenda that if you guys wanted to respond to, they could at maybe the request to be heard or something. I'm not exactly sure if that could be done, but that's kind of my thinking. So unfortunately, as it's written right now, I couldn't support it, and I'd hope that you guys wouldn't be able to support it with how it's written and would go back and look at it and push the motion back to review this.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah, if I could just comment for a minute on it. The reason that provision is in there, the process that we're developing now is very similar to what Bellevue Public Schools does. I represent Bellevue Public Schools. We had some pretty controversial issues that would pop up 3 to 4 years ago. During that time, somebody would say they'd want to be on public request to be heard, and they'd say budget, or they'd say substitute teachers. What about the substitute teachers? What about the budget? And so that's what we're meaning by vague. As long as we got a general direction of where we're going, it's the idea of, so when you get up here, we have a meaningful conversation as opposed to you saying budget, and then it's something that we have no idea on the budget that we're even talking about. We're right back to where we were on our, what I call the bobblehead provision of our meetings. We can't say, we can't address it because it's not there. And it's actually worked very well. I don't think there's been too many things that have come up in that process that has really created a problem. And again, what it's getting back to is so that your time is valuable, our time is valuable, so let's make it meaningful when you get up here to speak under public request. So it's simply, if it's budget, okay, what is the budget? Are we spending too much money here or there or whatever, or why are our receipts low here or there? That's all that we're asking under that deal. When a city council person puts something on the agenda, they have to put both a background and a synopsis on that. And the idea behind it is that so all the other council people know where that council person is going. I don't think there's any request that's going to be made to that level of detail that's put into the council members, but it surely is something as let's get to the issue so that we can be responsive to you. And that's simply what that's there for.
Okay, and then another question would be then, would you guys limit how many things would be added to the agenda? Let's just say 20 people sent you an email or requested that they want to talk about something. Will there be a limit put on it, or could 20 people come up here and you guys respond and we could do this, I mean, in theory, till like midnight? I mean, is there going to be a limit or anything that would be put on it? That's my concern is.
No
5
limit.
minutes. The usual
5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yeah, but no limit to the amount of speakers that can come up.
Right.
Okay.
Presently, no.
Okay.
Mr.
That's
Preister.
my concern is it just put one step in and then it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And the ordinance, once you put something in, it's harder to get it removed. So, in my opinion.
Sure. I would just respond that there is nothing in the language restricting how many people can speak. The same rules apply. The same free speech is there. You can come in now, and I appreciate that you and your friend have been coming back regularly and starting to take an interest. We need more young people taking an interest and learning. But it's much more informative when there's a dialogue, to me, and I can learn from you, and you can learn, hopefully, something that I may have to share when we dialogue. But when it's a one-way conversation, that's really restricted and limited. So we're putting no restrictions on numbers. If somebody tried to do that, that would be a whole different introduction. I don't think anybody here would support that. I wouldn't support that. So I don't think that's a problem or an issue. It certainly isn't right now. Anything could happen in the future, but it's not proposed. It hasn't even been discussed.
Mr. Berlowitz.
Yeah, and I'd just like to echo, first of all, a number of comments that council members have made in regard to the intent of the changing the process is very accurate. It's not intended to screen people out, prevent people from being on the agenda. And in fact, I think Council Member Preister and City Attorney Sullivan referred to the process that council members currently have to go through. There is actually a policy resolution 9 talks about council meeting preparation. And I'll just read it so you can see that in many ways, this is less restrictive than what council members have to adhere to. It says, council members desiring to place an item on the city council agenda shall make the request to the city administrator. Council agendas are prepared by the city clerk under the direction of the city administrator. Council requests shall be written stating the specific issue, background, and identifying the action which the council is requested to consider. Supporting written information whenever available shall always be submitted with the request to the city administrator by noon on Monday, that is 2 weeks prior to the council meeting the member wishes to introduce that issue. So this is following a very similar process, but in many ways we're just asking for enough detail, as the city attorney indicated, so that way everyone knows what the topic is. But the council members really are held to a higher standard currently. So it's not unreasonable. The other thing that was mentioned by Council Member Cook was ideally that if a request is made, it's always preferable if possibly we can resolve it in advance. There may be an issue that can be satisfied administratively, but it's not intended for that to be a roadblock. It's only to say if we get the request, we review it. If we think we can in an expedient manner and fully address it, we need to try to do that. That's our responsibility. In order to be more responsive and serve the citizens better, I think that's very important. At the same point in time, if it can't be dealt administratively or clearly is a bigger issue, then by all means, it needs to come to this legislative body. So it's really intended so we can better serve everyone and be in a much more prompt and productive way.
Councilman Blood.
I just want to make a quick observation. Hasn't this been nice for us to be able to discuss this ordinance and have this symbiotic relationship and be able to answer your questions?
Mm-hmm.
This, again, is another reason why we'd like to make the amendment for public comment.
I hear you. That's why I still think, unfortunately, that the public request should still be there, but if someone would like to put something on the agenda, they could still request the same stuff, but we still want to eliminate the public request to be heard, just so if someone would want to come up, or anybody, they could still voice their opinion. I understand that there are some people that take up 5 minutes of your day, and it's a drag at the end of the night, and you guys want to pull your hair out. I understand that. But to me, it just still comes down to the freedom of speech, and it's just another hoop and thing we have to jump through. And that's just what I keep coming down to. I understand no one likes the so-called negativity. People can decide that for themselves. But, it's just, I think it comes with the job, unfortunately, and I know you guys don't all deserve it, and that you shouldn't be harassed all the time. But it's just still freedom of speech, in my opinion, and as long as people are within reason, I still think they should be able to voice their opinion. But if they want to go the next step further and try to pursue to get something on the agenda so they can have a discussion, I think they should be able to have that right to do that too, and you'll be able to find out real quickly who the bigger person is if they are trying to do that or not. And also, I just had one more question. Is there any steps for someone like me to get something on the agenda right now if I wanted to bring something up about, I don't know, like the chickens. I don't know.
Right here, Ryan.
I got my permit, by the way, so, but I didn't know if there is there a way now if I submitted a request to get that on the agenda?
You can submit requests to the city administrator as well as you can go to any council member and say, hey, I've got a matter that I'd like to see addressed on the agenda.
Okay, so, yeah.
He's in my ward too.
But if they ever have that step in there where they can come to you to ask for something to request, this is almost a redundant ordinance in my opinion. So that's all I got to say. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Brian.
Are there others?
Travis Barber, 1906 Smith Road. I'm not going to say anything that probably hasn't already been said. I just want to second my voice and say that I like the idea of the motivation to be more productive in this agenda for a better response that's brought to the table. And I think anybody looking for positive results would appreciate these resources. This form to submit to you guys to get a better response. You get out of life what you put into it. If you don't bring it to the table, you might get the bobblehead response. That's their fault. But I also think to use the words require a request is wrong. And I think anybody should be able to come up here and just voice their opinion. Whether they get no feedback or the bobblehead feedback, that's on them. And anybody looking for a positive feedback would go through the proper steps, and they need that resource, that form. I'm with the form 100%, but as far as requiring that to be able to speak, I'm against that part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Blood.
But you know, if it's an item that's on the agenda, you can still speak on anything that's on the agenda, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I just think that they should be able to if they want to complain about something, they should be able to complain about it. I don't know, I'm young, I'm naive, but if I want to come up here, I'm a Bellevue tax-paying citizen. If I want to come up here and complain, I'd like to be able to come up here and complain. If I want to come up here and compliment, I'd like to be able to come up here and compliment without writing it down a week in advance, getting it approved, and like Ryan said, jumping through hoops.
You're also really proud of
more.
Bellevue. How does it make you feel when people come up here and say negative things about Bellevue, and then it's publicized to hundreds of thousands of people, and they hear all these negative things about Bellevue that may or may not be true?
Well,
Does
I think
that
they
make
should
you
move to
proud of Bellevue?
Papillion.
What did you say? Say it again.
I said I think they should move to Papillion. No,
Didn't mean to Papillion.
I don't.
I mean, those
I
are the
am
types
proud
of
of
things that
Bellevue,
we're.
and I think anybody
about.
who lives here should be proud of Bellevue. But anybody who's here, I believe, if I'm not speaking out of line, Sanders said at a meeting at it was a mayor thing, that she said citizens of Bellevue are proud to be able to not have to lock their doors at night. I would think a majority of us do, but just as we have that freedom and that comfort not to lock our doors at night, I like enjoying the freedom to be able to come up here and stand and say exactly how I feel. And if I did not fill out the form to get an appropriate response or a positive response from you guys, then that's on me. But
I hear what you're saying.
I value a lot and be able to just voice my opinion. And I think any Bellevue citizen would.
We're still allowing you to. But I hear what you're saying, but again, I hope you're hearing everything that we're saying as well.
Yeah, I'm not naive, and I'm,
No, without a doubt.
I can see both sides of a story.
You're a very astute young man, I agree.
But, all right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there others that would like to speak on this item? Please do so at this time. Now I'll close the public request to be heard on this item. Mr. Sullivan.
I just have a few comments, some of the things that have already been addressed by some of the other council members or the speakers, but I did want to mention a couple things, and that is a council meeting is a meeting of the council before the public, and the purpose is for you to know what public business is going on. And part of what had come up is a lot of public bodies would have a deal, approve the agenda, old business, new business, adjournment. Nobody knew what was old business, nobody knew what was new business. So the law changed about 8 years ago, and it said agenda items shall be sufficiently descriptive to give the public reasonable notice of the matters to be considered at the meeting. there's further areas that say if it is not sufficiently descriptive and defined at the meeting, that it is a violation of the Open Meetings Act for the council even to discuss the matter, not vote and approve something one way or to even discuss the matter. So it has been my concern throughout this process that public request to be heard is very limited in what this body can say because of those rules. So to the extent you don't like the bobblehead response, you can blame 100% of that on me, because I think it's a violation of the Open Meetings Act for us to get into the discussion on an item that has not been sufficiently descriptive and on the agenda. So this is what we're trying to resolve. This is a limited forum. This is not a forum in which it's completely free speech and that you can get up and speak and say whatever you want. If one of you got up right now and started to speak and wanted to speak about Obamacare or whatever it might be, we could ask our police chief, Mark Elbert, to have you removed from the assembly. It's not an area of General Assembly where we can discuss everything. And there, I think, is the difference, and I totally respect, and we're trying to respect, the idea of having as much free speech as we possibly can within a limited forum. And so what we've done is we said, let's get this changed so that we can be a productive part of the citizens out there, that if they have an issue, they can bring it to us, and everybody here can speak. And that's what this is trying to resolve, as opposed to, and this is probably not my comment, but I'm going to make it anyway. The fire chief makes a very valid point. Even if we described or went and responded 2 weeks from now and put it on the agenda, there's no idea or prediction of those people that saw the previous discussion will ever see that. And that's a huge problem. If there's something that's going to be discussed, let's get it on the table and get it discussed now, or reset it so that they know that it's being addressed. People watch that from time to time, and then they may go 6 months without watching that. And all they remember is a city council that sat there and discussed the matter, or sat there and had a guy complain about a legitimate problem, and the city didn't do a thing about it. That's what the citizens get half the time they watch the program.
Mr. Preister.
Mayor, we have this before us. I believe the public has had their opportunity to speak. I believe the council has. At this point, I think it's important that this council act on this tonight. I say that in all seriousness. I have never made a motion to suspend the rules since I've been here, because I think we need to take most all things to 3 readings. We had intended to bring this forward after the election so that it was not an issue in the election. And I thank Councilwoman Sanyuk for being that considerate to do it. But now we're in process of changing 2 other members. This council has dealt with this issue for as long as we've all been on the council. I think it's our responsibility, as it is the responsibility of any council, to act where you have action to be taken. Future councils who may not like it have the opportunity to change it again. And in the future, if something didn't work, that's why it's not written in stone. Everything is changeable. I think this council has a responsibility to address this, so I'm going to make a motion to, I'm not making it right now, but I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules shortly. And my strongest reasoning for doing that comes from Mr. Hansen, and I want to thank him because he brought up the fact that he took an oath of office as a military personnel. I did the same as somebody that was in the Army, and I have done it as a state senator, and I have done it as a city councilman. That oath of office said that I will uphold the Constitution and I will uphold all of the laws of the city of Bellevue, and that I will not allow people to be impugned or city employees to be unfairly impugned. And as long as we allow people to come up to the microphone and say anything they want without one shred of requirement for authenticity, for having facts verifiable and verified, For anybody to say anything at any time, I feel is a dereliction of my oath of office. And I take that oath of office very seriously. And because I take it seriously, I do not want staff to be impugned. I do not want the city to be impugned. And I want people to have facts and information, and I want them to help us find solutions. Right now, we're not finding solutions, and nobody is happy. For that reason, Mayor, I make a motion. It's up to the body to discuss it if you wish, or to vote on it, vote it up or down. Makes no difference to me, although I think it's our responsibility to act on it. I make a motion to suspend our rules requiring 3 readings, and that now that we've had the public hearing, that we vote on this tonight.
I'll need a second.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Blood. Discussion.
Did we close?
Ms. Sanyuk.
For those who may not understand, at the next meeting, we have a changeover. New council members are coming in. So what Councilman Preister is referring to is we'll have brand-new people coming in who will have to vote on this that very night, their very first night. And let me tell you, if I were new, I wouldn't want to have to walk in on this. So that's what he's referring to, for anyone who didn't realize. There's a changeover. 2 new council people are coming in, 2 of us are going out.
Any other discussion? See none, please vote.
The vote is 4-2.
Thank you.
Goes to third reading.
So we need a super.
It goes to third reading.
We need a supermajority, 5 votes to go. So it will go. Mr. Hanson, Mr. Modry, sorry to dump this in your laps, but it'll go to a 3rd reading.
So the 3rd and final reading will be on Monday, December the 8th. Item number 9, ordinance for introduction, 1st reading. 9A, ordinance number 3790. Sabrina, could you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 3790, an ordinance to amend sections 8-17 through 8-18 of Chapter 8 of the Bellevue City Code by adopting the 2012 edition of the International Building Code with amendments and changes, to repeal sections 8-17 through 8-18 of Chapter 8 of the Bellevue City Code as heretofore existing, to provide for the publication of the ordinance by pamphlet, and to provide for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. 9B, ordinance 3791. Could you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 3791, an ordinance to amend sections 8-18.6 of Chapter 8 of the Bellevue City Code pertaining to the amendments and changes to the International Residential Code 2012 edition, to repeal section 8-18.6 of Chapter 8 of the Bellevue City Code as heretofore existing, to provide for the publication of this ordinance by pamphlet, and to provide for the effective date of this ordinance.
9C, ordinance 3792. Sabrina, could you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 3792, an ordinance to amend sections 12-2, 12-36 through 12-36.1, and 12-170 of the Bellevue Municipal Code pertaining to the Bellevue Fire Prevention Code, to repeal sections 12-2, 12-36 through 12-36.1, and 12-170 of the Bellevue City Code as heretofore existing, to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form, and to provide for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. 9D, ordinance 3793. Sabrina, please read the ordinance.
Ordinance number 3793, an ordinance to amend sections 27-196 through 27-196.1 of Chapter 27 of the Bellevue City Code by adopting the 2012 edition of the International Mechanical Code, to repeal sections 27-196 through 27-196.1 of the Bellevue City Code as heretofore existing, to provide for the publication of this ordinance by pamphlet, and to provide for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. 9E, ordinance 3794. Sabrina, please read the ordinance.
Ordinance number 3794, an ordinance to amend sections 27-85 through 27-87 of Chapter 27 of the Bellevue City Code by adopting the 2012 edition of the Uniform Plumbing Code, to amend section 27-85.1 of the Bellevue City Code by adopting the 2012 12 edition of the International Fuel Gas Code to amend Section 27-86 of the Bellevue City Code by adopting the 2012 edition of the Uniform Swimming Pool, Spa, and Hot Tub Code. To amend Section 27-87 of the Bellevue City Code pertaining to amendments and changes to the newly adopted codes. To repeal Sections 27-85 through 27-87 of the Bellevue City Code as heretofore existing. To provide for the publication of this ordinance by pamphlet, and to provide for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Can you catch your breath? 9F, ordinance number 3795. Please read the ordinance.
Ordinance number 3795, an ordinance to amend sections 10-57 and 10-58 of Chapter 10 of the Bellevue City Code by adopting the National Electrical Code 2014 edition, to repeal sections 10-57 and 10-58 of Chapter 10 of the Bellevue City Code as heretofore existing, to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form, and to provide for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. The public hearing and second reading will be on Monday, December 8th, for all of the items on number 8. Item number 9, ordinance for introduction. 9G. Second page, 9G, ordinance 3796.
Ordinance number 3796, an ordinance authorizing the approval of building bonds, convention center project of the Bellevue City Municipal Building Corporation in one or more series in an aggregate stated principal amount not to exceed $7,375,000. Authorizing approval of one or more bond purchase agreements providing for the sale of the bonds to the underwriter, authorizing a lease purchase agreement, and any necessary addenda with the Bellevue City Municipal Building Corporation relating to the acquisition and construction of certain convention center facilities, authorizing the approval and execution of documents with respect to said lease purchase agreement and bonds, repealing ordinance number 3771 in its entirety, and providing for the publishing of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Thank you, Sabrina. All the items under 9 will have public hearing and second reading on Monday, December the 8th. Ms. Sanyuk?
We're on 9G, correct?
Yes.
All right. Because this has to do with bonds, in order to get the bonds at today's interest rates and hopefully not have them go up, I will make a motion to waive the statutory rule regarding reading on 3 different days and hold a public hearing and take a vote at this meeting.
Second.
Second by Mr. Knutson. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
The vote is 5-1.
Thank you. I'll now open for public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to speak on ordinance number 3796, please do so at this time. See none, I'll close the public hearing. Ms. Sanyuk.
Motion to approve ordinance number 3796.
Second.
Second by Mr. Knutson. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
The vote is 5-1.
Thank you. Takes us to item number 10.
No, 5 more. G1.
Oh, let me go back. Been a long night. So do we need a motion?
You're gonna need to read 1 and then ask for a motion.
Okay. Item 9G1, approve and authorize the mayor to sign confirmation agreement with Twin Creek LP and Bellevue Hotel Association. Ms. Sanyuk.
Motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the confirmation agreement with Twin Creek LP and Bellevue Hotel Association LLC.
Second.
Hold up. As it has been modified and is sitting on your desk, correct?
As is modified and sitting on my desk.
And I second.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Carmichael. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
The vote is 5-1.
Thank you. 9G2, approve and authorize the mayor to sign assignment of real estate purchase agreement to Bellevue Municipal Building Corporation. Mr. Carmichael.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the assignment of real estate purchase agreement to Bellevue Municipal Building Corporation.
Second. Second by Mr. Knutson. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
The vote is 5-1.
Thank you. 9G3, approve and authorize the mayor to sign assignment of joint development agreement to the Bellevue Municipal Building Corporation. Mr. Knudsen.
Make a motion we approve and authorize the mayor to sign the assignment of joint development agreement to Bellevue Municipal Building Corporation.
Second. Second by Councilman Blood. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
The vote is 5-1.
Thank you. 9G4, approval of promissory note with Bellevue Municipal Building Corporation. Mr. Knudsen.
I'll make a motion that we approve promissory note with Bellevue Municipal Building Corporation.
Second.
Second by Councilman Blood. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
The vote is 5-1.
Thank you. 9G5, authorize Bellevue Municipal Building Corporation to close on the property identified in the real estate purchase agreement, contingent upon the city attorney's review of all documentation and any contingent liabilities on or after December 26. Mr. Carmichael.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the authorization of the Bellevue Municipal Building Corporation to close on the property identified in the real estate purchase agreement, contingent upon the city attorney's review of all documentation and any contingent liabilities on or after December 26, 2014.
Second.
Second by Councilman Blood. Any discussion? Any discussion? See none, please vote.
The vote is 5-1.
Thank you. Now moving on to item number 10. Public hearing on matters other than ordinance, there are none. 11, resolutions, none. 12, current business. 12A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I are under consent. Takes us to 12J, recommendation to the Sarpy County Board regarding a request to vacate street and alley right-of-way in Child's Estate Acres. Ms. Sanyuk?
Motion to recommend to the Sarpy County Board that we vacate the street and alley right-of-way in Child's Estate Acres.
Second.
Second by Councilman Blood. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. 12K, request for permission to award the contract of construction of the South Lift Station Emergency Bypass, Nuvares Construction, Inc., in the amount of $49,844, plus possible dewatering not to exceed a change order in the amount of $25,866. Mr. Carmichael.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for permission to award the contract for construction of the South Lift Station Emergency Bypass to Nuvares Construction, Inc., in the amount of $49,844, plus possible dewatering not to exceed a change order in the amount of $25,866.
Second.
And for the mayor to sign the contract.
And for the mayor to sign the contract.
And we have a second by Mr. Knudsen. Any discussion? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Takes us to item number 13, public request to be heard. Any member of the public addressing the council shall abide by council policy resolution number 35 regarding the principles of conduct and decorum, which states any statements made during the city council meeting by the mayor, members of the city council, city officials, and employees, or members of the general public shall not involve personal, impertinent, or slanderous attacks on individuals, regardless of whether the individual so attacked is an elected official, a city official, or employee, or a member of the general public, in City Code -2-68 regarding the manners of addressing the council. Copies of the aforementioned rules are posted outside the council chambers. Speakers shall limit the presentation to 5 minutes.
My name is Teresa Cassidy. I live at 1025 Parkway Drive. A few weeks ago, I was outside doing yard work on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and I remembered I'd gotten a letter in my MUD bill about maintaining the lot next door to my house. I went back inside to check the letter. To my horror, I realized that I was now responsible for mowing and raking the entire vacant lot next door, as well as a strip of land behind my house that's about 25 feet wide and runs a block past my yard. I called Steve Carmichael, my city councilman. He confirmed that I had read the letter correctly. The city was trying to make me responsible for all this property. He explained that the city was having budget issues and didn't have enough resources to pay for mowing. So city officials decided that landowners could take over this responsibility for the city. I have several problems with this order. I'm a single parent who bought this house in 1999 when my son was 4 years old. It was never disclosed to me at this time that I was required to maintain city property. Had I known about it then, I never would have bought this house. There's no way I could have maintained that much land while being a single parent with a preschooler. Right now, it takes about an hour to mow both the front and backyard at my house. With the addition of this vacant lot and the strip of land, mowing time would be increased at least to 4 hours. Raking would probably take another 4 hours. It would take an entire day of work just to clean up the debris in the vacant lot to make sure my lawnmower wouldn't be damaged. The city has been mowing both pieces of property the entire time I've lived here. In fact, they mowed the property again after I received this letter. So if this law was passed in 2002, why wasn't I notified then? Why has the city kept mowing this property? And why am I suddenly responsible now? The state of Nebraska owns the vacant lot. I spoke with the right-of-way manager at the State Department of Roads. He confirmed that maintenance rights for the property had been turned over to the city. He also expressed great surprise, more than once, that the city wanted landowners to mow for them. He said the state does not allow private citizens to mow right-of-way because of the liability. If someone gets hurt, the state is responsible for it. Why would the city assume this liability? I also have a problem with this order because it seems that the city has abdicated one of its basic responsibilities outlined in state law, maintaining its property. City code requires landowners like me to mow their lots and keep them clean. Why is the city exempt from following its own laws? I wonder if you realize what this will do to the real estate market in Bellevue if you enforce this. I called Wells Fargo Bank, my mortgage lender, and talked to the bank manager about this. She was horrified. She agreed with me that any homes located next to city property would lose value due to this order, and the bank may not have enough value in their homes to back their loans. She said she and her mortgage manager would need to review all their files and warn their customers about this change before the purchases could be completed. A realtor in my Sarpy Chamber Tips group told me Friday that their brokers in their company have been warned to stay away from showing properties next to city land in Bellevue because their home buyers will now have to mow for the city. The word is spreading in the real estate community. Watch which houses you show in Bellevue. What value will these houses have if they can't be sold? I spoke to the city attorney about this issue, and he confirmed what Mr. Carmichael told me. After he looked at my house on the county aerial survey and saw how much land was involved, he understood why I was so upset. However, he said that mowing was done for the year and a decision on this could wait till spring. No, it can't. This needs to be addressed right now. On November 7th, I was in a car accident while coming home from a photo shoot in Lincoln. Fortunately, I was not injured. However, if I had been severely injured or killed, and my son was told to get my affairs in order, he would be stuck with a house that he can't sell. No one in their right mind is going to look at my yard and the lot next door and the block-and-a-half long strip of land and think, sure, I'd love to buy this house and donate 30 or 40 hours of free work every month to the city. I do not want my son and family to have to deal with this mess if something happens to me. It needs to be taken care of right away. Finally, I will not be able to maintain this much property for the city of Bellevue. I am not physically capable of mowing and raking this much land due to my outdoor allergies and long-term problems with my back, and I don't have the financial resources to hire someone to do it for me. In closing, I'm going to look at each and every one of you in the eye and tell you, I am not going to maintain property that I don't own. I'm not going to invest my money in commercial lawn mowing equipment to make it easier. I'm not going to spend the time and money to buy the seed, till the ground, and plant the flowers that you deem acceptable. And I'm not going to accept this burden simply because the city wants to abdicate its responsibility. I urge the council to recall this letter and take the time to find a reasonable solution to this mowing problem. It is not fair to dump this problem on the landowners without any notice or discussion, and it's not reasonable for you to devalue so many properties. The current solution only works for the city officials who don't want to make the effort to look at other possibilities.
Are there others that would like to speak?
Chuck Frederick, 1511 Madison Street. You know, I've spoken over probably close to 140 times since May of 2008. And I get these innuendos that they don't use my name, but like I've criticized somebody personally, or that I have given false information or inaccurate information, well, I'm going to put it on you guys. I want you to tell me, and it's on the record, show me where that is for the last, since May 2008. I'm a little tired of being criticized for something that, when I'm trying to make this a better city. I no longer am running for mayor, so you can look at my 1990 website, which is www.chuckfrederick.com. Thank you.
Are there others?
Brian Hanson, 2704 Georgia Avenue. I guess I bought my e-ticket, so I get to speak for free on this one. So, just a quick wrap up and stuff. This past Saturday, I had a chance to visit with Governor Heineman and the incoming governor at their residence for a pre-football game get together. And I commented to him. I said, you know, thanks for all that you did. I feel like you've been governor for life here. I guess it's 10 years, which is a record for our state. But I said, public service is not easy. The challenges, the public, the issues that you confront are not easy ones. If they were, they'd be easily solved and stuff. So easy solutions to easy problems is easy. You know, the opposite can be true. We have a lot to be thankful for in this season about Bellevue. We have a city that's got a new police station. It's state of the art. And it's pretty, you know, we can go to bed at night and feel pretty safe about our house not burning down, or at least them getting there in time to do it or defend it if we have a bad person try to come in. But, you know, the city, the people that make the city work are out there in the trenches and they're plowing snow, and gosh, we can be appreciative of that. You know, 8:15 in the morning and the street's clear and I can get to where I'm going to, or the trash is picked up, or why can't I paint a fence purple, I guess, unless you're Bellevue West High School surrounding their field or something like that. But, you know, I would just encourage the current council to take pride in what you've accomplished. I'd just like to express thanks. And, you know, people don't step up when things are going smoothly and stuff. They step up when there's, you know, things to be raised or things aren't going so smoothly. So a lot of folks, the silent majority, if you will, might be out there and say, hey, thanks for your service. But to the departing council members and the new ones coming on board, we have a lot to look forward to, and hopefully we can rekindle a spirit of community and citizenship and involvement. And there's folks out there willing to step up and raise their hand and take the challenge and get involved with things, but you got to ask. And so, you know, leadership and all those types of things are out there just, you know, waiting to folks to be asked to do things, and folks a lot of times will step up and do it. So thanks, and I hope you all have a nice Thanksgiving.
Are there others? Not, I'll go ahead. Item number 14, adjournment. Councilwoman Blood.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Second by Councilwoman Sanyuk. Any discussion? Mr. Preister.
Since it's a debatable motion, I will only say Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Please vote.
That's debatable.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Like to wish all the citizens a happy, healthy Thanksgiving. Remember on Black Friday to shop locally. Last council meeting of the year. Farewell to council members Sanyuk and Knutson, and swearing of new council members Hanson and Maggio will be on Monday,
Next week.
December the 8th at 6 p.m.
Are you going
Thank
to
you.
be gone?